UCLA taking on USC for the Big Ten championship. Under a minute to play. Lauren Betts lays it in. Those 2 points right there push her over 1,000 career points at UCLA. She finished with 17 on the day as the Bruins get the 72-67 win. UCLA is projected to clinch their first NCAA tournament #1 seed in program history as the Bruins win their second conference tournament title in the program's history, their first Big Ten title in the Bruins' debut season in the conference. For more on this matchup, I'm joined by CBS Sports women's basketball analyst Julianne Viani. And Julianne, I mean, this is a crazy game, a tale of two halves, right? I mean, the Trojans led by 10 at the half, USC led by as many as 13 in this game, but the Bruins really turned it on in the second half. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they just really clamped down on Juju Watkins defensively, especially. They really just did a tremendous job just forcing her to take tough shots. And I think she was also a little tired from the game last night. They had a really tough game against Michigan last night, and the Bruins had an easier game against Ohio State. So perhaps legs really played a little bit of a role in the second half, but I was so impressed the way UCLA was able to really turn it up a notch defensively. And then Lauren Betts got going offensively. I mean, she came out, she had her wrist taped. All of a sudden, after that point, the end of the third and into the fourth quarter, she went crazy. I mean, she dominated the game and took over. She had 3 blocks out of her 4 blocks in the fourth quarter alone. So something really woke up in this team in the second half.
Now, UCLA completes their first 30-win season in program history. The only 2 losses we saw from the Bruins were against USC. Getting this win against the Trojans heading into the NCAA tournament, how important is it for the Bruins as they head to the big dance?
Well, it's huge because this really the #1 overall seed tonight in the NCAA tournament was on the line here. So this was more than just winning the Big Ten championship conference game, the title game here. It was, wow, let's compete for the #1 overall seed. So you could tell that there was an added thing behind this, an added fire for UCLA. I mean, clearly they lost the last 2 games against these guys, and it goes back to last year's Pac-12 championship game where they lost to USC there too in a double overtime game. So there was, I think that this one was coming. I mean, UCLA really had a chip on their shoulder, and they came together. I mean, that's something that Corey Close, their head coach, told us that they've been really working on is their response to the losses to USC, and then their responses in game. And I thought that their response in game here tonight really showed another level of competitiveness with this group.
A great time for this team to come together. Julianne, thanks so much for joining us fresh off the call at Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
Thanks so much.
The Bruins get the win in their first season in the Big Ten Conference, their second conference tournament title in program history. Their first, of course, being a Pac-12 title in 2006 over Stanford. The Bruins had lost their previous 6 appearances in conference title games leading into this one. Well, after trailing by as many as 13, the Bruins come back for the 72-67 win over USC in the Big Ten title game as UCLA wins their second conference tournament title in program history and their first Big Ten title in their Bruins' debut season in the conference. For more on this one, welcoming in CBS Sports women's college basketball analyst Terrika Foster-Brasby and Ayala. And Terrika, I'll start with you on this one. What a comeback, what a turnaround, what a tale of 2 halves. What was working for UCLA in that second half?
Well, her name is Lauren Betts, right? She remembered that she is almost 7 feet tall, that she is a dominant post player, and that when she gets going, she is difficult to stop. And that is one of the first things that was working for this UCLA team. In the beginning, it really looked like much of the same for UCLA and USC. They came out and they were pretty stagnant, slowing up a little bit and allowing USC to pretty much get away with almost everything. And in that second half, they did, outside of allowing Lauren Betts to play her style of basketball, they also tried to minimize the touches of Juju Watkins. And earlier I talked about, what is the formula of stopping Juju? And really there isn't one. The only way that you can stop Juju is just to not allow her to get the basketball. And UCLA did an incredible job of that in that second half.
I think what we also saw was this was a UCLA team that, although they were being beat overall on the boards, they were not giving up offensive rebounds, or excuse me, they were getting defensive rebounds, which didn't allow the UCLA, or excuse me, the Trojans to be able to get out in transition. And this was a UCLA team that, through Lauren Betts, just as Terrika Foster-Brasby just mentioned, this was about leadership. This was about grit. This was about determination. This UCLA team remembers that they left something in the tank in the Albany Regional when they lost to LSU last year. I talked to Lauren Betts at Media Day. That was weighing on her. She came into this season wanting to focus on her leadership, and that's exactly what she did to get the Bruins a Big Ten championship.
Well, and Erica, you mentioned, too, the rebounding, a big storyline in this one, considering UCLA leads the country in rebound margin and got out-rebounded by USC in this one. Is this something they need to clean up going into the tournament?
I think absolutely. Again, Terrika mentioned how tall Lauren Betts is. I think that it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, so I was definitely focused on the box outs, or the lack thereof at times, but those are things that you can easily clean up. We also heard Corey Close on the broadcast talk about that some of the hustle plays were missing in that first half. That was not missing from this USC team. And so I think this is a Bruins team that they play a very team first, sometimes a very humble game. But we saw Lauren Betts get in her bag. She got a little mad. And this is that energy that UCLA is going to want to just bottle up and carry into the NCAA tournament. Again, remembering that they felt they left something in the tank last year, and they do not want a repeat of that.
Well, you know what, Erica, I would also follow that by saying that as much as UCLA may have felt that they left something in the tank, it looked and appeared as if USC pretty much left everything out of the tank. Like, they had absolutely nothing left in that second half. And so, as well as we started to see UCLA kind of find themselves and pick up, we also got a little lost at where USC was going in that second half. Juju Watkins, she had 28 points to end the game, but she was only 4 of 15 in that second half. And it wasn't just that. Kiki Ariafin, another one who pretty much tried to pick up the weight but didn't have much. Rhea Marshall, we missed her from the at least the first game that USC played in this Big Ten tournament, but didn't have much to contribute offensively. And so you have to also look at USC as it relates to you played 3 pretty close games. You had a tough one against Indiana. You played a little bit, and then in the beginning, a tough one. And then finally in the fourth, you pulled away against Michigan. It feels as if USC just was gassed, like they didn't have much left. And that's something that they're definitely going to have to consider as you go into the NCAA tournament. Those first couple of rounds are gritty, and they are going to bring everything at you, especially if you are sitting at the top of any of those regional brackets. And so it looks as if those were things that really they didn't tend to capitalize off of. Playing tired, playing down. You could see it in that second half. Shots just were not falling. You have to wonder how this will affect how they go into the NCAA tournament. Keeping in mind that there was more than just, in-city revenge on this particular matchup. The team who won this game is most likely going to be the #1 overall seed in the tournament. So there was a lot on the line in this matchup, other than just what we all were excited for, seeing if USC could do it a third time.
Well, and you mentioned that #1 overall seed, UCLA likely to get it for the first time in program history, a huge accomplishment for the Bruins. But we've got to show some love to this Trojans team, because Juju Watkins, she finished with 29 points on the day, 1 point shy of her third 30-point game against UCLA. She passed Caitlin Clark for second on the all-time leading scorer list in the NCAA. What kind of a game, Terrika, did you see from Juju Watkins in this one?
Well, listen, it's so crazy, right? Because we can say, what happened to Juju in the second half after a 29-point game. And so I think that lets you know just the type of generational talent that she is and the kind of player that she is, that you can kind of turn your head a little bit after dropping 29 points. But I think the overall issue is that it can't always be on Juju. In moments, you have to have someone else step up on the offensive end. And unfortunately, there just wasn't another player that was able to give enough for the Trojans in today's matchup to make a difference. However, Juju, she's sitting number 1 on my National Player of the Year list. It is obvious that this team goes as she continues to go. And we can expect to see her take this loss personally. I have no doubt that as they enter the tournament, which they may still be on a 2-seeded line at this point, but as they enter the tournament, Juju is going to be pretty much the head of the snake. And in order to get this USC team to fall, they're going to have to figure out how to minimize her ability to be impactful. UCLA figured it out today by minimizing her touches. How long or how often you're going to be able to do that is yet to be seen.
Yeah, that's a great point that T makes here, because Juju Watkins, 29 points, Kiki Iriafen, 10 points, but nobody else in double digits for this USC team. And so being able to get more from and literally anyone else, because Juju, we're going to see the defense that the Bruins put down on USC. That's what they're going to see in the tournament, not just because now there's a scout, there's the film from this game, but again, as Terrika mentioned, this is the NCAA tournament. And, you know, I think gone are the days, I was talking about this earlier, gone are the days where we can just go chalk when it comes to the women's bracket. So I hope y'all are ready, filling out your CBS brackets and paying attention to what we are saying, because there are some teams that are going to be ready. We saw what Duke was able to do earlier today by a defensive effort. This is going to be a tough road for the Trojans. And that's why I have to give some love to Gabriela Jaquez. She was able to play great defense, that primary defense on Juju Watkins, slow her down enough so that the rest of the UCLA team could set up, and then you saw them throwing numbers, dumping numbers down. That's why the transition game for the Trojans is going to be huge. When they can get out in transition, that gives Juju Watkins more options, whether she's got the ball in her hand or otherwise. And it took a little time for USC to get back into a rhythm. And by that time, it was too late. The Bruins had already locked it down.
The Bruins over here cutting down the nets. Both of these teams are going to be heading to the big dance. But when I look at the box score for the Big Ten championship game, the thing that stands out to me is 43 combined turnovers between these two teams. That is a lot of giveaways right there. In my opinion, that seems like the thing to focus on heading into the big dance. But when you look at these two teams, Erica, what is your point of emphasis heading into the tournament? What's one thing that they each need to clean up to come out ahead?
Well, I'm with you. The turnovers were, they got a little wild and crazy there for a time. On the one hand, you saw some of the turnovers were because, especially for UCLA, they were starting to speed up, get into passing lanes, but then they were just, maybe there was a little too much juice, as we sometimes say, especially in hockey, and they were just overrunning the ball at times. But you have to protect the ball in the NCAA tournament, 100%. I'll start once again with the Bruins. We heard Terrika talk about this USC team goes as Juju Watkins goes, and I think the same is true for Lauren Betts. I will say again, she knows that her challenge, especially mentally, is to be a better leader. What I'm not sure that Lauren Betts is always comfortable leaning into is that she is that woman for the UCLA Bruins. And this Bruins team, they need her to get touches. She has to be able to get the ball early in their offensive shot clock to give UCLA options, and that there were times where that was stifled, but we saw once Lauren Betts put her feet down in the paint and started being able to maneuver on the block, that things again opened up for UCLA. I think also they're going to have to work on their perimeter shooting a little bit. For USC, it's all about transition, and that comes from very hard defense. We saw the 2 wins that they were able to get over UCLA. I loved how they were playing defense, and that defense can lead to their transition offense. And this is a quick team. They have a lot of options, and I want to see them be able to lean into their transition game as they go on in the NCAA tournament.
I think you make great points there, Erica. And the only thing that I would add to that is that when we look at UCLA, I loved the way that they attacked the basket from Kiki Rice and London Jones to get to the free throw line. That's going to be important, right? You know that Lauren Betts is going to control the paint, but what you want to do is find other ways to be versatile. And I love the way that they were able to do that today. I had said earlier, a little earlier today, that I thought that Kiki Rice needed to bring and London Jones both needed to bring that same energy that they brought against Ohio State. And I feel like they did that, and even more so in the second half. The more that they were able to get Lauren Betts going, the more they were able to spread the floor and contribute to play their style of game. Part of that was seeing London Jones continue to attack the rim. So I love to see, I think that that is something that they need to continue to do throughout the course, because if their collisions collide, and I have no idea, and none of us do at this moment, who's going to end up where or wind up where, but I think about some other teams that have been key components to this women's college basketball race. I think about teams like Texas. I think about the South Carolinas. They're going to bring the type of defense that's going to stifle you to the point where you have got to figure out how you can find ways to score, to be effective from the offensive end. So attacking the basketball the way that they were able to do today, giving London Jones and Kiki Rice more confidence, a little bit more time to shine, and giving them another opportunity to put some points on the board in a different way was really important. I think they were 18 of 21 from the free throw line today, which was huge. So you got to continue to find ways to attack the basket for sure.
Lots to continue to watch as the games evolve, but games continuing to be played. We're about a week away from Selection Sunday. CBS Sports women's basketball analyst Terrika, Foster-Brasby, Ayala, Ayala, thank you so much for the insight, as always. As we take a look at the odds, of course, just under a week away from Selection Sunday, the brackets will be set. The odds to win the 2025 National Championship: UConn, South Carolina, each with plus 290. Texas, UCLA, USC at plus 550. Notre Dame plus 750. Who's going to win it all? We shall see. This is March.